The indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, has launched a blustering attack on the British government, accusing London of hypocrisy and selective application of international law after Britain condemned Israel over its decision to advance the E1 settlement project near Jerusalem. For IPOB, the issue goes far beyond Israel and Palestine. The group says Britain cannot present themselves as a defender of international law while, according to their position, failing to take meaningful action over the detention and treatment of their citizen, Nnamdi Kanu, in Nigeria. The confrontation began after British Foreign Secretary Ed Miliband criticized Israel's decision to advance the E1 settlement project east of Jerusalem.
This Israeli government's publication of a tender for the E1 settlement project is an unacceptable and destructive act. The UK has been clear privately and publicly in our opposition to E1 and our support for a two-state solution as the only way to ensure long-term security and peace for both Palestinians and Israelis. Today, I made clear to the Israeli Foreign Minister, Gideon Saar, that the Israeli government must halt E1 plans immediately, retract the tender and stop all settlement expansion. Britain will not stand back and accept the destruction of the two-state solution.
But IPOB has rejected Britain's position and accused the British government of applying international laws selectively. In a statement by its spokesperson, Emma Powerful, the pro-Biafra movement said Britain should first answer questions about Kanu's case before criticizing Israel over international law. IPOB argues that Kanu's case has already attracted the attention of international human rights institutions. The group pointed to findings concerning Kanu's extraordinary rendition from Kenya to Nigeria in 2021 and said international bodies had called for his release and compensation. For IPOB, those findings should have triggered a stronger response from Britain because Kanu is a British citizen. Instead, the group alleges that Britain failed to defend its citizens with the same determination it is now displaying in its criticism of Israel. That, according to IPOB, exposes what it considers to be a serious contradiction in British foreign policy. The group questioned why Britain would invoke international law when criticizing Israel, but allegedly remains silent when similar concerns are raised about Nigeria. IPOB said this selective approach undermines Britain's credibility as a defender of human rights. The group declared that the British government should publicly support the international findings concerning Kanu and demand that Nigeria release him and provide compensation. It also called for an end to what they describe as the selective use of international law based on political convenience. But IPOB's statement did not stop with Kanu. The group strongly rejected Britain's criticism of Israel's settlement policy and declared its support for Israel and Jerusalem. IPOB argued that Jewish people have a historical and biblical connection to the land of Israel and should not be subjected to what they describe as discriminatory restrictions over where they can live. The group also accused Britain of focusing heavily on Israeli actions while failing to adequately address Palestinian terrorism, incitement, and other issues that IPOB says contribute to the conflict. IPOB's position is that international criticism should not be directed at one side while ignoring violence and extremism attributed to the other. The group further argued that selective criticism has consequences beyond the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, claiming that one-sided narratives have contributed to increased anti-Semitic sentiment in Britain. For IPOB, the fundamental principle is simple. International law should apply equally to every country and every people. The group said Britain cannot demand accountability from Israel while refusing, in IPOB's view, to demand accountability from Nigeria over Kanu's case. The statement also highlighted growing international attention around the Biafra question. IPOB recalled that concerns about Kanu's detention had reportedly been raised in Israel during a reception involving an IPOB delegation. The group also pointed to comments attributed to Israeli strategy advisor Noga Abed, who reportedly expressed support for Biafra's freedom and criticized Britain's historical role in Nigeria during an appearance on Israel's Channel 14. Those developments are significant for IPOB because the movement has long sought international recognition of what they describe as the political and human rights dimensions of the Biafra struggle. The group sees growing international discussion of Kanu's case as evidence that the issue can no longer be treated purely as an internal Nigerian matter. At the center of the controversy is Kanu himself. IPOB maintains that his detention is unjust and has repeatedly demanded his unconditional release. The Nigerian government, however, has maintained their legal position concerning the case. But IPOB argues that the continued detention of Kanu raises questions about Nigeria's obligations under international human rights standards. The group is now using Britain's criticism of Israel to intensify their argument. Its message to London is particularly forceful. If Britain believes international law must be respected, then it must respect that principle everywhere. IPOB said Britain must choose between applying international law universally or allowing political interests to determine when those principles are enforced. The group also rejected what they describe as a patronizing attitude from Britain towards Israel. According to IPOB, Britain, despite its own colonial history and continued overseas territories, should not position itself as the authority determining where Jewish people can live in their historic homeland. This forms a central part of IPOB's argument. The group believes Britain has no moral authority to lecture other nations about territorial questions, while in their view, refusing to confront unresolved political questions arising from its own colonial legacy. For IPOB, the controversy therefore connects three issues: Britain's colonial history in Nigeria, Kanu's detention, and Britain's current position on Israel. The movement argues that all three demonstrate the need for Britain to examine its own record before criticizing others. IPOB's intervention also comes at a time when the Biafra question continues to generate strong emotions among its supporters and opponents. Kanu remains one of the most prominent figures associated with the movement, and his legal battles have attracted significant attention both inside and outside Nigeria. The latest statement is therefore not simply a reaction to a British diplomatic statement. It is an attempt by IPOB to challenge Britain's credibility and place Kanu's case back at the center of international discussion. The group is demanding three major actions from Britain: support for international findings concerning Kanu, a public call for his release and compensation, and an end to what they call the selective application of international law. IPOB says Britain cannot demand justice for one group while ignoring another. And by directly linking Britain's criticism of Israel to Kanu's detention, the pro-Biafra movement has turned a Middle East diplomatic dispute into another international platform for its campaign. The British government may disagree with IPOB's interpretation, while Nigeria maintains its own position on Kanu's case. But IPOB's argument is clear. If Britain wants the world to take its human rights concerns seriously, the group says London must first demonstrate that the same principles apply to everyone, including Nnamdi Kanu and Biafra freedom. For more updates, stay with us on News Express. I am Cassie Tony.